Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the Season 1, Episode 10 of the Travel Japan with Wes Mathur podcast. We are chugging along this season, and we actually only have 2 more episodes of this season before we go into Season 2 after Episode 12, our finale. When that does happen, we will continue to post every single week, as we have been posting in the past as well. So no snags there. And anyway, let's begin with this week's topic. We are going to be skipping news because we have a very special guest. That is Mari, as you can see here. And how are you guys doing today? First of all, Mari, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I'm glad you're doing well. So for episode 10 today, I'm very excited. We are joined by Mari. Mari is a TikTok content creator under the username memento.mari, and we're going to definitely have that down in the comments and the notes of the show too, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on all platforms, Spotify and so too. So please check out her content, linked in the description of the episode afterwards. So she creates amazing content on Japanese mythical beings and urban legends, which is something I have a huge interest in, even though I'm very uninformed. So I'm very excited to learn a lot about that today. She actually, it's very impressive. I hate to go too much into this on a tangent, but Mari actually just started, she started her TikTok mid-December, just over about a month and a half ago, and already has over 60,000 followers. How many followers do you think you have at this moment, Mari?
I think I have around 67,000.
Dang, that's wild. Yeah. I feel I checked 3 days ago preparing for this podcast, taking notes, and it was like just over 60. So you're exploding there. Viral videos and everything, just follower after follower. That's fantastic. That's growth I've never seen. Very impressive. So cheers and hats off. It's well deserved. Every single episode is continuous. They're out often and they're so interesting to watch. Various Japanese mythical beings. So I hope hopefully everyone listening is gonna get a taste of that today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'm just gonna jump right into some questions I have for you, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome, very cool. So as everyone knows, we do content here about living, working, and traveling in Japan, and there we go. Yeah, pulled up on the screen for anyone watching this visually is Mari's TikTok, Memento Mari. There it is, and we're also gonna link that and show this on YouTube afterwards. And linked in my Twitter as well too, for anyone looking for visuals that is listening to this only on audio. Anyway, so being a podcast that does focus on living, working, and traveling in Japan, what is your experience in Japan, Mari, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so in 2017 to 2018, I studied abroad there, and I lived in the countryside in a town called Gifu, and it's pretty small, but it's maybe like 30 minutes to Nagoya by train, so it's not like totally in the middle of nowhere, but I studied Japanese language and culture while I was there, and it was a really great experience because I felt like I was really immersed in Japan, as opposed to like Tokyo, where a lot of Japanese people do speak English and you're kind of surrounded by English. That wasn't happening in the countryside.
I feel that 100%, and I love that. Actually, one of my study abroad sessions too was in the countryside too. I don't believe even as much in the countryside as Gifu as far as my image goes, but just Yamanashi, so about an hour outside of Tokyo, and I completely agree. My other program was in Osaka, not quite as big as a city as Tokyo, but it would have been extremely easy to go out into the city and find groups of people that I could communicate and socialize with solely in English, and that was not the case at all in the countryside. So I definitely think that played a huge part in me being able to immerse myself in the language, and I think just learn through necessity. If I was going to make friends, I think I had to communicate. So is that similar to what you felt there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think
that's so cool.
Sometimes people were even a little bit intimidated by me because it's like, oh my gosh, it's a foreigner. I don't know any English. I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think once people meet me, they're like, oh, okay, she's cool. Like she speaks Japanese, first of all, and she's cool.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild cool. That's points. Yeah, I had similar experiences without a doubt.
Yeah,
so how that program was about a year?
Yeah, it was about 10 months, and luckily I had a spring break, and it was about a month-long spring break, so I was able to like travel around Japan too. So I went to like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Nara, Kobe, Hiroshima, Miyajima, like basically as many places as I could, just because I wanted to experience all of Japan and not just the countryside,
That's so great. I feel 100%. And I promise everyone we are going to be getting into mythical beings and such soon. I just have some more questions. I'm so interested in this. So was that your first time ever experiencing Japan? Just 10 months from zero to that, real quick?
Yeah, definitely. That
Nice.
was my first time. And it was a little bit scary just because,
Yeah.
I watched a lot of YouTube videos and everything,
Uh-huh.
but I think at my university, it was me and the other guy from my university. We were the only Americans there.
That's
So,
wild.
yeah, it was
Wow.
a little bit intimidating at first, but
Yeah.
such a great experience in the end.
I bet. Not to mention jumping straight into the countryside of Japan for your first time as opposed to being in a city, which I think is a more accessible way for many people who have not experienced Japan to experience it. I feel like in the city there are a lot of restaurants and definitely attendees at train stations that speak English and menus in English and stuff like that. But in my experience, that was very much not the case in many more rural parts of Japan. So
Right.
points. That's cool.
Right.
A brave
Yeah.
move. I mad respect for that. How
Thank
much
you.
Japanese did you speak before you went that time?
I took 2 years in college, but I didn't really have experience speaking it because I went to school in Kentucky. So there's not a lot of Japanese people in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
And
I see.
so I knew, I think language learning in America is not the best. So
Yeah.
I knew basically like the grammar points, like the basic grammar points. I guess I could have like a basic conversation, but I wasn't confident in my speaking at all. So like, I know the first week I was there, I actually lost my keys on the
no.
bus. Yeah, on the public bus, I
Oh.
dropped them, and I had to explain to I lived in a dormitory, so I had to explain to the resident assistant that my keys were missing, and then I had to explain to the program director that my keys were missing.
Oh,
And
no,
then she's like,
chaos.
she told me I had to go to the train station office by myself, and she
What?
she was explaining the instructions on how to get there in Japanese, and I was like, okay, all right, I got it, all right. And luckily everything turned out okay, but that was definitely a great experience.
Applause, yeah.
First coming into Japan. Luckily everyone was very helpful, so
I'm glad, yeah. Well, points for being a boss and making it through that. That sounds rough.
yeah.
That's wild cool. All right, anyway. I'm sure I'm going to ask many more questions later just through messages, but that aside, all your videos go way into depth into so many mythical beings, and through my experience here, 4+ years or so many things I've never heard about. Granted, I haven't studied much culture or history as much as I would like to, but my next question is, what got you interested in urban legends and folklore and mythical beings of Japan?
Yeah, so it was definitely something that I've been interested in my whole life. Not exactly Japanese folklore, but in general, just folklore. And when I was in university, I was in a Japanese culture club. And one of the themes that we had for one day, was yokai. And that's where I kind of discovered it. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And at that time, I wasn't super into like anime or manga or like Japanese dramas or anything. So for me, this was kind of like a way to connect with the culture and therefore connect with the language more,
So cool.
So
Yeah. I feel that.
That's basically how my interest started.
I love that. And I see what you mean. I think latching on to something cultural, something I wouldn't say less academic, but aside from learning purely linguistics, learning the Japanese language, I think, can be really accelerated, and it can provide so much motivation if you do kind of partner that with learning something about pop culture, or for you, history, and these urban legends, and that's fantastic.
Yeah,
And,
definitely. I think it's so important when you're learning a language to, latch on to something in the culture,
Yeah.
not just learn the language just to learn the language, and kind of have a goal outside of just finishing a textbook.
Yeah, 300%. And while studying abroad, I saw students do that with sports, joining a sports club, or if they practice judo or something like. Definitely pop culture, music, and anime, things like that. For me, I think I joined a photography club, and that was very much an element that motivated me. Just like every day, I was excited to use. With the members of the club, that I was excited to kind of show off my new Japanese language skills. So I would internalize it better that way, as opposed to just trying to get an A on the test. And so that's really cool that yours actually has translated into such a depth and wealth of knowledge on such a amazing and unique topic, which is cool.
Yeah.
I believe.
Thanks.
How do you learn about these creatures?
Yeah, so
beings?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. So I'll get into
Yeah.
that. Actually, before I answer your question, it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to define what I talk about sometimes because they're called yokai in Japanese, but yokai doesn't really have a direct translation into English because they can be like monsters, they can be skeletons, they can be ghosts, they can be just people with weird body parts like the rokurokubi, which is just a woman with a really long neck. They can be, people with like extraordinary powers. So it is hard to describe it. That's why
That is
I call
interesting,
them,
right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I call them mythical beings.
I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. And I did
But-
just very surface level research on that during Halloween when I was trying to make some TikTok videos just about like mythical, yeah, exactly. I guess mythical beings that my friends had told me about or I've heard here through urban legends. And through my research too, it's the main translation was demon, but I think demon just does originate from mainly Christian-based historical Christian-based cultures. So that is truly just a negative being. And like you said, I think it was so cool. One of the questions when we were talking before about talking about some of these creatures today, you said, should we go into more scary ones or more cute ones? And just the fact that they have cute ones is so interesting to me. And I remember I was researching them to like cover, and there's like ones that would like eat dirt in bathtubs and things like that. They're just like harmless, and ones that eat like vampires that drink oils and lamps and will like spy on gossip. Just really interesting things to me. And that does play into more just of the history of Japan, where I think having the history revolve a lot more around Buddhism and I believe Taoism does make mythical creatures have less of a black and white nature when it comes to morality, whereas Judeo-Christian or Christianity kind of does put everything that is mythical, I guess aside from angels, and this is a blatant statement too, just a difference, is fairly evil. So that is more of a culturally difficult thing to translate, I think, is more than a linguistic thing.
Yeah,
What I've seen.
definitely.
That's a great
Yeah.
clarification that you said. So yeah, mythical beings, that is the language.
Yeah,
I'll,
I mean,
use
that's
from
just
now
my
on about that.
definition. I mean, you don't have to call it that. You can call it whatever you want, but
No,
that's
that
what
makes
I
sense,
call Yeah.
That does make sense. I like it. I think that is the most apt translation, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, so the question was, how do I research?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So first I want to talk about a little bit of the history. So the majority of the creatures that I talk about come from this book from the 1700s called The Illustrated Night March of 100 Demons. And it was by this guy named Toriyama Sekien. And this guy traveled around in the 1700s to basically all the regions across Japan, collecting stories about these mythical creatures, these yokai. And he collected 200 different yokai with illustrations and a story with them. And through that, obviously from that to now, they have kind of fleshed out a lot more, especially with the internet where people can trade ideas and trade stories and everything like that.
I see, yeah.
They've changed over time, but that's kind of where the origin of all these mythical beings are. So I kind of like look at that and then kind of combine that with, my journey around the internet to make my TikToks.
I got that. I love that. That's interesting. And that's a lot of work. That's really cool. And I know it doesn't probably seem like that, especially if it's something you have enthusiasm for, but that's really cool. That's a lot of research that goes into it. And it shows too in all the TikTok content that I've seen from you. And I definitely encourage any listeners right now to check out the content too. It's so in-depth. It's so unique. Very awesome. I'm like very excited to check out that book now. And basically that leads me into the final question, but it's really going to be the main thing we're talking about too, is I'm sure everyone's very curious to know examples of these mythical beings we're talking about. Would you mind telling me like if you began researching that or began that interest more so when you were in Japan or more so after that year experience ended?
I think that sometimes it's kind of like a mixture of both. I remember like walking home from dinner one night and my friend was talking to me about Kuchisake Onna, which is the slit-mouthed woman. And I was like, oh my God, this is really scary, especially walking home in the dark. What is going on?
I feel you.
So I guess obviously it kind of grew from that culture club. That was in like my second year of college, and I traveled to Japan in my fourth year. So I also had to do like a thesis to graduate from the program in Japan. So I did my thesis on kappa, which are like reptilian humanoids who live in the rivers and streams of Japan. Yeah, I was like that was my first video I posted on TikTok, just because
Oh, so cool. I saw it.
I really like kappa.
A classic.
Yeah, I guess it kind of grew while I was there, especially living in the countryside. It's kind of like kind of scary. Like there's a lot less lights at night.
There are, right?
Compared to Tokyo.
That's so true. I remember walking around the nighttime, like just nighttime around Japan all the time. I cannot imagine if doing that while studying these legends. And yeah, the slit-mouthed woman, she is terrifying. Is that something you would like to talk about later, or should we just give a brief thing about that now?
I can talk about her now. That's fine.
Okay, cool. Oh, anyway, yeah, I did a TikTok about this recently. My friends, this is one of the few ones my friends here in Japan had told me about, and they told me in the beginning the scariest part without telling me the resolution part. Anyway, I'll get into that after the story. They freaked me out. They're very unresponsible friends.
So basically, Kuchisake Onna is a woman. She is actually an onryo, and an onryo is a vengeful spirit that died in a terrible way. And there are tons of onryo in Japanese mythology. And even if you know The Grudge and The Ring, those two women, or the child, Samara Morgan, and the woman in The Grudge, are also onryo. So Kuchisake Onna was killed by her husband when he grew too jealous of her beauty, and he thought she was cheating, so he killed her and mutilated her with scissors, and that's why she has the slit mouth appearance. And so she, the Glasgow grin or something.
Oh,
like
I have heard it called that. Yes, correct.
Yeah. And so she walks around late at night looking for lone travelers. Sorry, the pictures being shown are not Kuchisake Onna. I want to make that clear.
Yeah,
that's not Kuchisake Onna.
Apologies for that.
So she wanders around at night, and when she meets a lone traveler, she will come up to them and ask them with a mask on. She will ask them, am I pretty? And if you say no, she will kill you. And if you say yes, she will take off her mask and show her slit mouth, and she will say, what about now? And if you say no or scream, she will kill you. And if you
very
say
lose-lose
yes,
situation.
Yeah, well, if you say yes, depending on the story that you hear, she will follow you home and she'll kill you at home.
Wow.
So, yeah. And
that's terrifying.
So I'll tell you, Wes, I'll tell you the way you can beat her. Don't worry.
Please. Okay, so here's where this comes into me. So my friends told me that much, and before I was about to walk home in the nighttime of Japan, I'm like, thank you. And then they said, yeah, there's a way to escape this situation, but I forgot what it is. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I was terrified that whole walk. Anyway, so it's a terrifying situation. Anyway, please enlighten me on the way to deal with this.
So
I
there's
may need to know.
Right. You know, it's good information to have. There's a couple ways to beat her.
Yes.
The first one is to answer her in a confusing way where she'll have to like think about your response. So maybe you can say like, am I pretty? Instead of answering her question, ask her like, am I pretty? Or tell her like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have time now, I have to go. And she'll just be like, oh, okay. Or
that's so good to know.
Yeah, I heard she also likes candy.
I see.
So if
I heard that. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. If you throw candy at her, she will want to eat the candy and not chase after you.
Okay,
but
wonderful.
I know these are only like temporary fixes, and in some of the different stories, she is very, very fast. So
yikes.
It's
okay.
only temporary.
I mean, another reason to carry candy around wherever I go. Why not?
Exactly.
Better be on the safe side. Fantastic.
Exactly.
Well, that is a good way to lead into. That's a fairly, I guess, popular Japanese urban legend. When I talked about that on my account, it seemed a lot of people had heard about that. But you have a wealth of information and just an encyclopedia on these things. I would like to ask for my final question, basically. Can you tell us about some of your favorite of these mythical beings, or unique ones, or any ones you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, definitely, I can. So the first one I want to talk about is called the Jorogumo, and that is, if you show the first picture that I sent, it is of the original illustration in Toriyama Seikien's book, and she has she's a spider woman, but she also has spiders coming out of her, like
Oh no, okay.
on these string type of things. And
Okay, gotcha.
the spiders breathe fire.
Okay.
So
Here we go. So here's the photo up now if you are watching on TikTok or YouTube, and I'll post this photo and Twitter afterwards if you are listening to this audio. That
Right.
is a terrifying image. It's honestly a cool looking image. Like that's a very aesthetic looking scary monster. But dang,
Yes.
okay, there's the photo of the streamy things coming out.
yeah,
You said it much more elegant.
Yes, exactly. So what's being shown now is the more modern day version of her. She no longer has spiders that breathe fire coming out
Okay,
of
gotcha.
her.
Good news.
Yeah.
Very good news.
She is a spider woman, and she presents herself as just a regular beautiful woman, and she will try and bring travelers, or specifically young handsome men.
Oh,
she will
okay.
bring them
I'm safe.
to her cave and devour them.
All right.
Yes.
Gotcha. She's got a type, huh? Good to know.
Yes, exactly. And this yokai comes about after a spider has reached the age of 400 years old.
Okay.
And
I see.
the interesting part, well, one of the interesting parts of this yokai to me is that jorogumo are real spiders in Japan.
Okay.
They're called the golden orb weaver in English. And they're terrifying looking. They're like yellow and black, and they're pretty big too.
I think I've seen these actually. I think I've experienced this.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're huge, right? Yeah, okay,
They're
I've seen
so
these.
big. They're so big. And I didn't know about this yokai until I saw these spiders in Japan, and I Googled them because I'm like, what kind of spiders are these? Are they poisonous?
Oh, yeah.
And
I was wondering, okay.
I realized it was a man-eater. But oh my gosh, they're everywhere.
That's so interesting. They were, yeah. So I was, yeah, exactly. I saw them mainly in the countryside too, and then I saw them in Okinawa, but they were bigger there. If they were the same kind, I wasn't clever enough to Google them back in the day, but I just asked my friend, "Are these dangerous? Because they're everywhere, and people are walking pretty close to them." I thought, and they just said, "I don't know, but you should be fine." So, it's good to know that. So that when they reach 400 years old, you say they become this sort of mythical being.
Yes, exactly.
All
and
right.
that's actually a theme you see in a lot of yokai. For some reason, well, I guess this was the case with a lot of things like a long time ago. If something reaches an advanced age, it's seen to be very wise because it survived for so long.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so this for the Jorogumo, it's 400 years, but there's also something called Tsukumogami, which is basically like an object Pokemon. So object Pokemon, kind of like object Pokemon, but I'm an object yokai, and there's a lot of Pokemon that are based off of these
I would imagine.
yokai.
That's so interesting.
Tsukumogami. And there's like a kasaobake, which is a umbrella that transform. That is the baku that is shown. Sorry, I didn't send you any pictures of the Tsukumogami.
It's all good.
But is a umbrella that transforms, and there's tons of different creatures that come from Tsukumogami that are just everyday objects that are very old, like over 100 years old.
I see how that works.
Yeah, so that is the Jorogumo.
Okay,
and,
cool.
My next one is has actually inspired Pokemon too. They're the Pokemon that you see on the screen: Drowsy, Musharna,
Good to know.
Munna, and I forget his name, but he's a
sorry.
Pokemon.
Gotcha. I can't help you with this one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and the yokai. I honestly struggle to call this one a yokai because it is actually deeply rooted in kind of like religion. So yeah, so it's called the Baku, and it originated from Chinese mythology. And the story goes that when the gods created all the animals on Earth, they had a lot of parts left over, like the elephant trunk, or a rhinoceros eye, or the paws of a tiger, or the body of a bear. And so they put all of these together to create the Baku.
No way. So the leftovers, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
basically the leftovers, yeah.
And that makes sense, yeah. The Pokemon images here, there's one with the trunk, an elephant-looking trunk, and very a combination of all the leftover parts of animals. That's very
Right.
interesting.
Exactly. So this is a traditional statue of the Baku, and you will see them on the outside of a lot of temples because they are seen as protectors from evil spirits.
Nice.
Yes.
This one's a little bit more scary looking than the Pokemon. And then for anyone listening, so the Pokemon ones were, fairly cute if you've seen Pokemons. This one is some sort of carving or a statue. I can't tell exactly wood or stone. However, it's a snarling, I would say, rodent-looking creature with claws. And I would venture to guess, aggressive-looking eyes and features. But if it is defending a temple from evil spirits, then I guess that is what you want on your side, to have your back against whatever's trying to get in.
Right.
So
You
a
gotta
stark
look
contrast. Yeah, right?
intimidating.
Gotta be fierce.
Yeah. And this picture is from what's known to be the first encyclopedia of Japan. And it is also like more of a traditional look of the Baku.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. So nowadays, the Baku don't look that terrifying. They look more like, if you know the animal, like the tapir. I can never say it.
I believe I know what you're talking about, but at risk of sounding ignorant, please continue.
Yeah, well, it's basically like a pig with a snout.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it kind of looks like an anteater, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, you're right. If I do think of like other random animal parts kind of coming into one where I initially would not think it makes sense, that would come to mind.
Exactly.
I see. Suspiciously accurate. These stories are suspiciously accurate. I get it.
Exactly. And it's really cool. These stories are accurate and they're kind of like based off of real things, just like the Jorogumo is an actual spider. And I can never say it. Tapir is called Baku in Japanese too. Yeah.
Gotcha.
They're
I'm gonna
always
go with you on
ruled
this one.
in reality a little bit. Yeah. So
I see.
The other
And just for my own personal well-being, what is their temperament like? Do I have to worry about them like the spider beings, or are they kind of just defenders? Are they pretty chill if I encounter one? Is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, definitely. So
Cool.
They actually
Gotcha.
do interact with humans, and they are nightmare eaters. So
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I
I
like
know
them.
you're probably going to have some nightmares after seeing the Jorogumo. So the Baku,
Yes.
when you wake up from your terrifying nightmares tonight,
Yeah.
you can call on the Baku. Just say, Baku-san, come eat my dreams 3
I will.
times. And
Okay.
they will come and happily eat them up so you can peacefully go to sleep again.
Phenomenal. This is wonderful news. I like this a lot. Thank you.
Yes.
That's great. And again, I love this feeds back into how they have like ones with different temperaments. There's like the cuter ones and the scary ones. And I love the spectrum too. I think that really plays into like just this whole world of them I'm creating in my mind and their interactions with each other. Very cool.
Definitely.
Anyway.
Like there are some that are even just kind of very harmless and they just
Yeah.
play pranks on people. Like
I love
you
it.
have the shirime, and the shirime is humanoid, but you can find them in a lot of like urban places. So I know you live in Osaka, so you might see this
Yes.
one.
Perfect.
And it walks around kind of on all fours as a humanoid, and it
Okay.
will flash people.
Oh no.
Because it, like, if it bends over, there's an eye where its butt is.
Okay.
And
No. I got you.
yeah, the only purpose is to shock people, like shock passerby.
My imagination has already done that for me.
Yeah.
This description. Great. Wow. I'm gonna be on my toes next time I enter the forest here. Wow. Yeah, you're right. That is quite the prank.
Yeah.
That is quite the mythical creature prank. Good to know. Yeah, and that's cool. Okay. Well, I don't know if it's cool, but that's very
It's definitely interesting.
imaginative. It is. Yeah, I love it. It's funny. That's true. Yeah,
Beyond imagination.
I don't hear too much about like funny demons or funny mythical creatures too much in American folklore. So I like this. Maybe they exist, but that's a cool one too. And I just have a message now to ask you about from Brandon to ask you about the tree, the tree one.
So that is from one of my TikToks. It's called the juboko. And
Yes.
the juboko is a tree that originally starts as a regular tree. And when it is surrounded by war and blood-soaked battlefields, then it absorbs the blood and it becomes a juboko after that. And
Oh, wow.
yes. And if you cut this tree, it will bleed actual blood. And yes. and it can move and kill people and pierce people with its branches and suck their blood.
What? Vampire tree. This is amazing.
Yes, and some people say that they will have like the faces of their victims as like knots on the tree.
Oh.
Yes, that is the juboko.
Okay, good. I'm glad Brandon reminded me to ask about that one. That is truly terrifying. I thought the butt eye one was my new biggest fear, actually. Seeing that would definitely traumatize me if I got flashed by that and the forest. However, the tree one, yeah, that's savage. Yes. And I love the way that has such a different method of coming into being than the spider that lasts for 400 years or something. That's very interesting how it evolves. I see how Pokemon may have taken a good amount of like things, how these things evolve. And anyway, that's just another line I'm drawing mentally. That's really cool.
No, yeah. And it's interesting that you say that with Pokemon. I think outside of like Pokemon and like Yokai Watch that have creatures that are specifically inspired. Yes, that's my Juboko video.
The tree video.
And right there, that picture is from, I believe it's from Inuyasha. I'm saying a lot of the yokai are in anime and manga and Japanese entertainment because it's so just out of this world interesting. And so
it is, right?
Yeah. So you'll see a lot of yokai. You won't even realize it is a yokai, but they're in a lot of Japanese entertainment.
Yeah, that's wild interesting. I know the most popular animes right now, the movie Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer is extremely popular in Japan. Every convenience store has characters from that show on like chips and instant ramen and stuff like that. And I did watch that, and I think the spider one that you may have described there, no spoilers for anyone, no worries, but has a role in that one. So it does sound very familiar, and I'm glad it does too, because there's so much creativity put into these myths and legends, how they evolved over time, that I am glad they have a place now in Japanese pop culture and are living on now, being either creative or honestly the one in that show is kind of cute. I'm going to admit, but hey, you can be scary and cute at the same time, so that's fire. Anyway, yes. But I digress. Any other mythical creatures? I'm so enjoying this. I definitely have to look into this book of, what is it again? The book of nights?
Yeah, the illustrated night parade of 100 demons.
What an epic
it's a long
name.
Title.
The illustrated night. Yeah, correct. Illustrated night parade of 100 demons. Okay, cool.
Yes.
I'm gonna be checking Amazon for that right after this.
Yeah.
Cool.
I can tell you about an urban legend if you'd like.
Yes, please.
There is one called Hanako-san. Have you heard of Hanako-san?
No, I don't believe so, actually.
Okay, sure. So Hanako-san hides in bathrooms. If you go into a school that has a 3rd floor and go to the bathroom of the 3rd floor to the 3rd stall and knock 3 times, Hanako-san will be there. You have to ask, like, Hanako-san, are you there? And she will answer, yes, I am. And I don't know why.
Inside the stall?
Yes, inside the stall.
Okay, gotcha. Copy that.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know why anybody would summon her, because she will grab you and she will drag you down through the toilet into hell. It's kind of like Bloody Mary, I guess. Like,
I suppose so.
Yeah.
But a little bit worse, because you have to go through the toilet. And I mean, if you're going to end up in any sort of hell, regardless of whatever religion it stems from, I would just rather not go there through a toilet, likely enough. And I mean, I get it if you interrupt her or whatever you're doing. Yeah, and why would I'm not going to be doing that. And I get it. I get it. High schools in Japan, I suppose anywhere, but at nighttime, they were so spooky. I got to do like a TA job in a Japanese high school by my university, and I would stay there late, kind of like doing some grading things, because I was procrastinating, to be quite honest. And when the sun went down, when it was winter super early, it was spooky. I was terrified. I would hustle out of there as quick as my slippers would let me. So now I'm glad I did not know about this until then. That's so crazy. Do you think that's like a sort of test of courage people do? Kind of, same as Bloody Mary. You kind of do that with your friends to kind of like show them you're not scared of it or something.
Right. And I think it's more like a like morbid curiosity as well, just like with Bloody Mary, like, let's do this. What if she shows up? So
exactly.
Yeah, I think it probably came about the same way that Bloody Mary came about.
Yeah. Oh no, the curiosity. All right, if you never see me again online, it's because my curiosity gave in and I knocked on my bathroom door asking for Hanako, was it?
Yeah, Hanako-san.
maybe it's best I don't remember that name, but all right, fair.
Forget it.
Through the toilet. Yeah, thank you. That's a savage one. All right. Wow, that's
There's
a wild
also
one.
there's another urban legend called Akamanto. Have you heard of Akamanto?
I have not. No, this is another new one for me.
Yeah, so it depends on who you ask, but I think the most widely known or accepted version of him, he is a man with a red cape. And when you're in the bathroom late at night, I think usually it might be like the last stall in the bathroom, you realize that you're out of toilet paper.
Oh no.
So he has the toilet paper, and he will he will ask you, would you like red paper or blue paper? And if you ask for red paper, then he will slit your throat and you'll bleed out and die. And if you ask for the blue paper, then he will suffocate you and die.
All right. So of course I'm gonna ask, is there, ideally I would avoid both situations. Is there a way one can do this if I eventually run out of toilet paper in Japan?
You ask for purple paper.
Oh, the combination, very clever. I never would have thought about that.
Right.
You may very well be saving my life here, Mari. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm giving you the advice you need, really.
You are, yeah. And what, like an oddly playfully evil? Is that the term for taking the toilet paper? And wow, that's really interesting. Have you ever seen that in a movie or anything like that?
I have not seen Akamanto.
Interesting.
I know Hanako-san. There's an anime named Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, and they made Hanako-san into a cute 13-year-old boy that grants wishes. So it's
a bit different,
really the same,
than dragging you down.
It's based off of the urban legend of Hanako-san.
That's so interesting. I like that version a little bit better, to be fair. However, I still don't quite trust him just knowing where the origin comes from.
Right.
I might have to skip out on those wishes. Dang. Yeah, and I do have just like a final couple wrap-up questions if you, unless you don't have more to share, because I'm loving every one of these. These are so creative.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So, yeah, how you did answer that just now too, but within media and pop culture, movies or anime or literature, have you seen representations of these creatures that you have felt have stuck out for you, have been interesting or memorable?
Yeah, so I can say in Spirited Away, there are a lot of different yokai you can see, but one that I like is called Shikigami, and Shikigami are like spirits that have a master that will guide them. And in Spirited Away, I don't know if have you seen it?
I have, yes. I enjoy that film.
Great. So there's a scene where I think Haku is his name, the dragon, is being attacked by these paper things that fly around. And those are Shikigami. And they're actually pretty accurate because Shikigami can take the form of paper like that. And they swarm and do the master's bidding.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's good. I think Studio Ghibli has does a really good job in representing the yokai accurately. There's also Kodama, which are tree spirits, and you can see those in Mononoke as well.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if that. Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's so interesting how a lot of that does draw from history too. And I can see that too, definitely, where a lot of these do have a playful, but of course a business nature as well too. I guess is a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
If you're dragging people to hell through a toilet. That's so interesting. Very cool.
Right.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing so much of this information with us, these creatures. I'm definitely going to be doing more research on these myself, as well as keeping up with your TikTok. And here, just to wrap things up, this is definitely not something I thought about before, but have you ever had an experience with anything you think could be like supernatural, anything like that? This is something we've never talked about on the podcast or anything, just curious.
I would say I lead a pretty boring life outside of TikTok. I get this question a lot, and I honestly I can't think of anything that has been like super scary happen to me.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm hoping maybe I can experience a kind yokai coming to me.
A bold move, right? Yeah. I would definitely not be opposed to that too. I would say out of all of them, I still am the least excited to meet the one that would flash me with its butt and there's an eye in the butt. I don't think I could recover from that. However, you know, the toilet one is rough too. Yeah, I have neither ever experienced, I think, anything supernatural my entire experience in Japan. So if that is a fear of yours for coming here, I believe you will be safe. If that is something you have considered. And yeah, but I have realized being here, I think the conversation of people seeing ghosts comes up a little bit more often than I did for me in the West. Was that something? That's not something I've really heard as a complete like as a current thing here aside from my personal experience. But was that anything you experienced? People talking about like experiences seeing ghosts or anything like that?
Not personal experiences. I talked a bit about urban legends like Kuchisake Onna, as I said before.
Yeah.
But I think it honestly has to do with the horror industry in both America and Japan, because I feel like America kind of values like serial killer type of movies more, like Freddy versus Jason, or Michael Myers or something like that, which
Absolutely.
are like okay, they're fine. And Japanese, like their horror is more like paranormal. We do have paranormal stuff in America as well, but I just think that is the ghost thing is more popular in Japan, and the serial killer type of thing is more popular.
That's so true, actually. I think you really hit the nail on the head too. And since we are talking about horror movies, a conversation I have with a lot of my friends here too, when they watch American horror movies, they feel like while the difference between the horror industries could also be seen as a lot of jump scares in American horror movies. They say while they're watching the American horror movies, they're terrified during the film, like they'll scream and stuff like that, and it's an exciting experience, but after they're fine. Whereas if they watch like a Japanese ghost movie, they're telling me like they have like a sense of dread for like weeks after. They have like, they keep thinking they see faces of ghosts in the dark and stuff like that. So that's an interesting thing, and I of course very much love film and scary movies, so that's something I did want to ask about from an expert like you. Very exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Japanese horror is not so much jump scares, but like just seeing like it lingers a lot more is what I'm trying to say.
That is the word, a lingering fear.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct.
Cool. I'm glad it's not just me. So fantastic. And yeah, that wraps it up. We're at about the 46-minute mark here. So thank you so much, Mari, for joining us, taking the time out of your schedule to come onto the podcast. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot this time, which is very cool. And I think I have like hopefully a new hobby when researching these things. If I get into this book, I'm going to be searching it on Amazon. And once again, everybody, this is Mari, TikTok creator, covering a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today with much more variety and a lot more depth too. Please check out our content, momento.mari on TikTok. And again, we're going to be linking that in the description. And that wraps up episode 10, season 1 of the Travel Japan with Wes Mathur podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Mari.
All right, thank you. I love being here. See you next time.
Cheers.